this is Milan from the production crew, and I'm here at Fan Expo to interview some people, so let's see who I can meet. Hi, I'm Milan Wood, here with the production crew, and I'm here with...
Guy Gilchrist.
Okay, so I'm just going to ask you some questions, and yeah. All right, so can you share with us how you first became involved with the Muppets franchise?
Okay, after a 2-year search, Jim Henson was looking for 2 years to find someone that could write and draw the Muppets for the whole world in newspapers. Because a comic strip in the 70s and 80s was the biggest thing you could have besides a TV show, you know? And Jim already had the #1 show. So he was looking to have a comic that would be read all around the world. And after 2 years and a couple hundred people, we found each other.
That's really cool. Are there any challenges or memorable experiences that happened while working with the team behind the Muppets?
Well, the challenge was that the Muppets were already the #1 characters in the world, and I knew them very well. So it meant, though, that when I was writing and drawing the Muppet Show for the newspapers, that we were going to be read by about 150 million people every day. So if I was going to make any mistakes, it was going to be in front of the entire world, you know? And so while that was a challenge, and it could be sort of paralyzing when you really think about it, what I decided to do was to make sure that Jim was happy. Because if Jim Henson was happy with what we were doing, then I felt like we had a pretty good chance of making the whole world happy.
That's really nice. Do you have a favorite Muppet character to illustrate or write for, and if so, why?
My favorite to write for and to draw is always the one that I'm writing and drawing at that minute.
Excellent.
He or she or it, or whatever a gonzo is always the most important. And, you know, I consider myself a writer who hires the closest illustrator around me, you know? So I'm all of them at the same time. And how they're interacting in a situation, it's sort of all up to me because I'm writing it. So whatever I'm working on at that moment has all of my focus, and because I want to be the very best that I can be for you, you know? But my favorite character when I was a kid was Rolf the dog. Because Rolf, I don't know if you know this, was the very first famous Muppet. Starting in 1962, when he was created for a Purina dog chow commercial, he started capturing people's hearts. And then Jimmy Dean, you know, the guy that has the pork sausages, right? Well, you know, he was a singer and an actor. And he had a giant hit called Big Bad John. And he had his own television show.
Hey, how'd you like a card trick?
You want me on a what?
A card trick. Pick
Why
a card.
not
Pick
do
a
a
card,
card?
any card.
You'd like me to pick a card?
Pick a card, any
Be
card.
glad to, my friend.
And what is it?
The 9 of diamonds.
That's correct.
How did he know that?
Take another card.
Why not?
Just take another card.
Yes,
And look at it, but do not show it to me.
I did not show it to you.
Not show it to me.
All right.
Now tear that card in half.
In half. It is
Now
not.
tear that card in quarters.
All right.
Now tear that card into 8.
Yes, sir.
Now tear that card into 16. Now throw that card up into the air.
Why not?
Happy New Year!
And when he met Jim, he was such a huge fan that they got together, and Rolf partnered with Jimmy Dean on the Jimmy Dean Show.
Bruh.
So when I was about 7, in the mid-'60s, the first character I knew of Jim's was Rolf the dog, you know?
That's really cool. So are there any Muppet characters you found challenging to capture in comic form?
They all were in their own way. because again, we have to think of all of the wonder of the Muppets, that they have their voices, the movement, the music, the color. And I'm taking them from 3 dimensions and putting them into 2 dimensions. So we only have color on Sundays, you know, and they're going to be printed the size of a postage stamp. So the challenge was to bring that wonder and that life into the characters to get the audience to be thinking they were moving, that they were alive, that they were as fun and as silly and as beloved as they were in their living form, you know? Because I would take... Hi, how are you? Hi, how you doing? You know, so, you know who taught Guy to draw me?
Who taught you?
Jim.
Really?
Really? I was there. That's very true. So you can see that, you see you see how your eyes lit up when I started doing this? It's because we are so beloved, you know? And that was Guy's challenge.
Okay. How do you think Muppet comic strips contribute to the Muppet franchise and its legacy?
Well, the comic strip prolonged the Muppet Show for 5.5 more years after Jim stopped doing the weekly show. So we doubled it, and we had the same readership as the show had viewership. So it was kind of important to Jim, and that's why it was so incredible that he gave that to me. Now, he didn't just give it to me. You know, Michael K. Frith, Jim's creative director, was my everyday boss who taught me how to draw the Muppets as well as I ever could. And Jerry Jewell, who was Jim's head writer, was working with me on the writing. So this was a very important thing for Jim, to keep these beloved characters in front of you or your parents or your grandparents, you know, for that 5 years that we did it afterward.
Okay. What advice would you give to an aspiring comic creator who is interested with working in an established franchise?
Well, the main thing is remember that you are coming into an iconic thing, and it's bigger than you are. So your style and your imprint, you shouldn't be thinking about that sort of thing. You should think of yourself as first a fan, and then think of the creator, and put yourself in the middle and have the fan you think about, how would I like this character portrayed? And then who the creator is, you should be having a conversation with them, whether they're past or whatever, but having a conversation with them and knowing as much about them as you can, so that you can do something that you feel that the creator will be proud of. I get questions all the time like, so when you were working for Warner Brothers, or when you're working for Pink Panther United Artists or something, were you putting in little things, you know, to kind of like freak people out and this and that? And I go, absolutely not. I was babysitting an icon that was much bigger than me. So that's how I thought of it. I thought of, in the case of, let's say, Looney Tunes or Pink Panther, Frisk Freeling, for instance, Frisk Freeling. So I would think, I want to honor Frisk Freeling as a fan of Tweety and Sylvester or Pink Panther and the Inspector. What would I like to see? What's that thing that's going to move this forward and make fans enjoy it and make it more popular? And I would take myself completely out of it. And anyone that works with franchise characters for very long will tell you the exact same thing.
Okay, thank you. And my last question is, can you tell us about any upcoming projects or collaborations you are excited about in the world of comics or entertainment?
Sure. Well, of course, follow my Instagram and all of that stuff for the day-to-day stuff. But the big deal going right now is that in September, my memoir, Jim Henson, The Muppets and Me, about my 10 years with Jim and Michael and Jerry and Frank Oz and everybody, Carol Spinney and everybody that I worked with at the Muppets, will be coming out on Apple and Amazon.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's all the questions I have for you today. Thank you so much.
I have a question for you. Okay, so how long have you been doing this?
About a year.
Okay, and is it the first time you've ever spoken to a frog?
Yes, yes it is.
And that's what we have from here. And coming from Fan Expo Philadelphia, this is Kermit the Frog for Sesame Street News. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bruh.